Well, Mississippi State baseball just added a new name to its 2026 recruiting class, and there's big news for next season, too. One key returner is pulling out of the MLB draft and heading back to campus. We'll break down what it means and why it matters.
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Go to FanDuel.com. I'm Jaron Spor, National College Football writer at Athlon Sports. That's Landon McBride. We have a recruiting show for you today, a packed recruiting show for you today. There's another baseball commit, and there's also some more baseball news with a potential big arm pulling itself out of the MLB draft. Also, Iverson McCoy has set his commitment date. It'll be later on this week. We'll break that down. Then, of course, it's Monday, so we'll give your top dog of the week. But first, Landon, let's talk about the baseball commitment. Daniel, I'm assuming it's Nienaber, but I could be way off on that. So, anyways.
Yeah, what you mean?
Right, let's just go with it. He's a pitcher in the 2026 recruiting class. He was committed to Virginia. That gives Mississippi State now, 10 commitments and the number 14 ranked class in 2026. So, another arm to the rotation at some point.
Yeah, and he's a big guy. I mean, depending on where you look, he's 6'4" and somewhere between 190, 205 pounds, just depending on what you see. And that's a big projectable frame. Like, that's a guy who by the time he leaves campus, he's probably 6'4", 220. And, I mean, he's already touching 94 as, a 17, 18-year-old. I mean, that means 95 is going to be his average fastball. I think Perfect Game has him somewhere in the 200s overall across the nation. So, I mean, a very good recruit.
Number 6 overall in the class. So,
yeah. I mean, he's very, very good. I mean, we've talked about Bauer, hitting 100. I mean, 95, yes, it's a big difference, but it's not that far off. Like, that's a guy who in a year, he might have that in him. So,
yeah, you're right.
It's huge.
And now you pair him with it's a loaded pitching class so far.
Yeah, it is.
That's obviously highlighted by Wilson Anderson, who's the number one player in the class, a right-handed pitcher. Nienaber is right-handed as well. Then you have Quincy Bright, who's a left-handed pitcher. And then you obviously have Beckett Doan as another left-handed pitcher. So that's 4 pitchers in the class. I mean, it is clear with the transfer portal and with recruiting how serious they're taking the pitching staff. And it's like, you have to, because what we know is pitching wins you games in the postseason. I always bring up, especially not just tournament play, but just overall, but I always bring up Barry Bonds. And I know the whole steroid issue, but my opinion, Barry Bonds is the best baseball player ever. He never won a World Series, though. And a lot of that had to do with not having the pitching and stuff, because a batter only goes up, 4 times a game? Obviously sometimes you go up 5, but sometimes you go up 3. So
4 to 5 is your normal.
Yeah, and so they can only impact it for that amount of times. And for him, they usually walked him, so he really couldn't impact it, period. But that's why pitching matters when it comes to postseason. We love our batting lineup for the 2025 season, but what's going to get them to the World Series is going to be the pitching. It's not going to be that lineup.
Yeah, it's kind of like the same type of thing you hear in football, which has been challenged recently, but the offense wins games, defense wins championships.
Right.
We're kind of in that thing with baseball. Offense wins you games, but the pitching is what's going to get you that title. So stacking these recruits that are going to build the long-term pitching staff, because we have a good feeling of what next year is going to look like for the main guys, especially now that Ben Davis has withdrawn from the draft. I mean, unless something surprising happened, I would have assumed he was going to be back anyway. But him withdrawing his name, coming back to campus, I mean, we talked about him being possibly your third starter or your first guy out of the bullpen kind of guy that just you can rely on. He's going to get you to your closer, that type of person. So having him in there, I mean, that's huge.
And he had a strong season. He actually went 4-2, mainly used as a reliever, though. 3.77 ERA, played in 23 games, started 4 games, allowed 52 hits, had 61 strikeouts in 57 innings, so about a strikeout an inning. I mean, he pitched really, really well. And just go back to the regional this year. You're going to play 4 or 5 games, most likely. And we were like, gosh, we feel really confident about the Pico game, which they ended up losing, but we feel really confident about the Evan game. And then after that, it was like, what do we do? You know, they obviously threw out the bullpen game in the very first game, and we had our question marks about that, mainly not because we didn't think they would win that game. It's because you're going to waste so many arms that you're going to in those other games. And that was the position they were in last year. This should not be the position they're in this year with the arms. And that's obviously Nienaber isn't for 2026, so he's not going to affect this year. But all of the arms this year, that should not be an issue.
No, not at all. I mean, especially with Valencia's coming over, the 2 relievers that are coming over from the other. There's so many transfers. Like, unless I have a running list next to me, I can't remember all of them. One of them, I mean, we talked about it a little bit. I believe it was Friday. Brendan Sweeney, he made it official actually after our show, but it had gotten out that he had committed to Mississippi State. So, I mean, that's another arm that is officially in now. So, I mean, they have brought in so many pitchers, and just with the track record of Brian O'Connor as a coach, and say what you will about Justin Parker, he's done a pretty good job. I mean, it's not been great, but it's been good. And the fact that all these pitchers are coming and the ones that are here are staying says a lot about the type of coach he is, like in the clubhouse, in practice, all of that. So if he can get these guys to just kind of take that half step, take that step, this pitching staff is deep and dangerous.
Yeah, like you mentioned, they have Valencias, who they signed. They also added Maddox Webb, Jackson Logar, Tyler Pitzer, William Kirk, Brendan Sweeney, as you just brought up. I mean, they are a loaded, like in terms of a lot of capable arms, they're loaded. Now, as I brought up last week, we'll find out who takes a step and becomes the ace, because that's going to be, that's going to be the biggest question mark. That and who becomes the third starter, because we feel pretty solid in Tomas, Valencias, and Evan because of their history. And obviously Tomas has ace potential. But after that, we aren't for sure. Now, Ben Davis, yes, he was used in more of a reserve role, in the bullpen role, but he's a guy that could take that step. Ryan McPherson has all the tools you'd want to take that step. We obviously think, Jack Bauer obviously has the tools to do it too, but we think he's probably going to be used more like a closer type pitcher this season, just because he's really raw on a lot of things. But what if he comes in and he's a little sharper than a lot of people thought? That happens all the time, where you see something in the season, you're like, okay, he's kind of raw on this and that, but he works so much, and then when he gets on campus, it's like, whoa, he's a little farther on than we thought he was, and that stuff happens. So maybe he's that way, but I would expect him to be more of a closer. But yeah, that should be an issue. And then this offseason, you could lose several of these guys, and that's why in 2026, adding, what did I say, 4 or 5 guys already, that's massive, and another Virginia commit coming over.
Yeah. And one thing about who could be the third starter, these people taking these steps, Tomas Valencias and Ryan McPherson are with USA Baseball right now.
Right.
So who knows what you can pick up? Because, I mean, you're going to be with coaches you're not normally with, players you're not normally with, in situations you're not typically in. And so, I mean, we see it all the time with the guys in the NBA who go to the Olympic team, who don't play much, come back and are just different players. Could something like that happen with these guys? Just being around, picking up things from people they wouldn't have otherwise interacted with, and just come back and be the better or best version of themselves this next season. So there's so much to be excited about. I mean, we've spent weeks talking about how great the offense is going to be. I mean, the potential of this pitching staff is off the charts. It's just not realized yet. There's more projection. So we kind of have to look for the clues that development's happening.
And I'm glad you brought up Justin Parker, because obviously keeping him was kind of a surprise to a lot of people. But he has come in and immediately gone to work, and not just in the transfer portal, we're now seeing it in high school ranks as well. And we're seeing him in retaining a lot of pitchers that were going to leave. Ben Davis, we all expect him to be back, but he was at least in the MLB draft considering it. So getting him back was obviously big. But All right, coming up next, a big football commitment is happening this week. There's actually several, but someone has moved their commitment up, and it is later this week, and it's a big one. We're going to talk about that. That's coming up next.
Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. And I've been using FanDuel to track my favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast payouts, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay, which is one of my favorite things to do in the middle of the game, you see someone getting hot and you just want to keep this action rolling, or if you want to bet or watch a bet ride into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. New to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, so big news as Iverson McCoy has officially set his commitment date. It was set for July 15th, and it was set to be at 1 o'clock. This was back on June 25th, so 5 days ago? So last week he set that. That followed his Mississippi State visit, which if people remember, he was committed to Mississippi State, then decommitted, wanted to go through the process some more. The team with the last visit was Mississippi State, unless he went on a trip that I don't remember.
I haven't seen one.
Yeah, I haven't seen one announced at all. And Mississippi State, let's see. Yeah, they definitely got the last visit. Mississippi was right before that. Ole Miss, then Arkansas and Louisville all got his officials. He's been to Mississippi State twice. He's been to Ole Miss 4 times. Obviously an in-state kid. Yeah, I mean, this is a big one.
Yeah, it's big. It's hard to read. Anytime you have someone decommit and then you're still in it, it's really hard to get a read on those guys because something happened.
And real quick, I just realized I never announced it is July 3rd. I said when his last one was and never said when he actually scheduled it for. He tweeted out, I believe it was Sunday, that it's July 3rd. So moved it up 2 weeks.
Yeah, when you have a guy who decommits, there's something happened, whether with a coach at that school that made them want to rethink it or in conversations with other schools that made them want to rethink it. So it's so hard to know what could happen. And I want to say he's going to lean toward Mississippi State, but like when someone decommits, I just don't know how to read it.
That's a good point because I was kind of going in thinking everything tells me he's not coming to Mississippi State. Because usually when a guy decommits, it's like, and they say, yeah, that school's still in it. It's like, they're not in it. Like you heard something from someone else you really like, and that's who you're going to choose. And so if I was a betting man, it's like, okay, it's not Mississippi State. I always say follow the visits. Ole Miss got 4 of them. Mississippi State got 2, and those were the top 2. It's probably Ole Miss. And say guy probably going to Ole Miss. Yeah. But just something in my gut feels he's coming back to Mississippi State and back to being committed to Mississippi State. But like you said, everything tells me no, he's not coming. He's going to go to Ole Miss or Arkansas. Like I said, I think it's Ole Miss where he ends up going. And I think even on 3 has him, 37.9% to Ole Miss, but 22.3% to Mississippi State. So it's right there. It shows that not a lot of people know either.
Yeah, and like I said, there's just something about this that seems like he's coming to Mississippi State. If you remove the previous commitment, it almost leans more Ole Miss than if he didn't decommit. What I'm saying with the 4-2. But then the fact that Mississippi State still seems to be one of the top 2. We don't know if it's 1 or 2. Honestly, I'm ruling everyone out besides Mississippi State and Ole Miss. If he does not go to one of those 2 schools, I'm going to be completely surprised.
I would be surprised. Yep.
But the fact that they're still either 1 or 2 at this point means whatever made him rethink it has not made him completely change his mind, and it's still an option. And so I don't know. There's something that really makes me think he's going to end up recommitting.
Yeah, and I don't want to act like that never happens, because that stuff does happen.
Yeah.
The guy decommits and they're just like, I just want to see everything. And some people, they take the commitment part, and I wish more did this. They take that part really serious, where if they're committed to a school, they're not really looking at anyone else. There's several programs that have a policy where you can't look anywhere else because that's not being committed. And so there's some guys that are like, for me, I want to be decommitted if I'm going to keep going on all these visits. Mm-hmm. And he decommitted right before he announced all of his official visits. So maybe that's what it was. He wants to see, he knew he was going to go on these visits. He wants to see everything, and then he wants to decide. And so that could mean that he's coming back to Mississippi State. Again, my betting, if I was a betting man, I would go with Ole Miss, but FanDuel doesn't have that as a prop, so I can't put that in there. But Mississippi State, it's just, there's just something in my gut that feels it's Mississippi State, even though everything tells me it has to be Ole Miss, but my gut says it's going to be Mississippi State on July 3rd.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, and that would really kick off a nice string if we can get him. There's so many commitments coming up. He's the one that changed his date to be that, but I mean, TJ White, all those other guys.
First tomorrow.
Yeah, there are so many. Well, by the time you listen to this, they may have already committed, but
yeah, the ones that haven't announced a set date could be committed by the time this comes out.
Yeah, this next week is going to be huge. We said that last week. I mean, there's so many moving parts, and Iverson McCoy would be a nice piece to fit in there. There's a lot of safeties that are committing in this class, not a lot of corners. 6'1", 180. That's good size. Mississippi kid, it would just be good to have him in the fold. And as much as logically it makes sense to say Ole Miss, I am just not there yet. Something is hanging on.
Yeah, and I don't think this is going to be a commitment that's over with when he announces either. True. I think if he picks Mississippi State, they're going to have to fight hard to keep him. I think if he picks Ole Miss and Mississippi State improves and shows some things defensively, Ole Miss is going to have to fight like heck to keep him. But, I know a lot of people are going to look at it again and see a 3-star. Why are we making so much noise about a 3-star? Again, like I always say, look at his offers. Ole Miss, that's we don't like Ole Miss, but that's a good football team.
Yeah.
They were a very good defensive team last year. Arkansas, SEC team. Louisville was one of the top ACC teams. UNLV is one of the top group of 5 teams. Kentucky had a down year last year, but Mark Stoops knows defense. That's an offer. Liberty, one of the best group of 5 teams. So he doesn't have a bad offer list. He actually has a pretty good one. And you mentioned him at corner. Some list him as a safety. I think he's going to be coming as a corner, but that just shows his versatility, which those are the kind of guys you want to add to your defense.
Yeah, it is. And you want to know why we're making a big deal out of him? Go look at his tape. He is sticky. He does not let people blow past him. It's hard to tell if he has great top-end speed, but he at least is a physical corner that is not going to get beat, and he's going to stay right there. And I think he could stick at corner. I mean, yes, he might be one of those guys who
he's probably a nickel, kind of a slot corner type thing, because he's undersized. He's about 5'11", so he's undersized.
It's 5'11"? I thought I saw him at 6'1", man.
No, see, this one says 5'11" on 3, so you never know what he actually is.
Yeah, you don't know what he is because 24/7 has him as 6'1". So
if he's 6'1", he's really good size. If he's 5'11", he's a little undersized.
Yeah. So somewhere he can play corner.
I love these sites sometimes.
Yeah, it's still someone needs to start measuring people. That needs to be a thing. That needs to be verified.
Well, it's because they measure them at these camps, and some of them do them with shoes on, some do it without shoes on, and it's just have a consistent thing. And then whatever they measure at their camp is what they go with. So that's why you'll see a 6'1" or a 5'11" or a whatever. ESPN split the difference and went 6 foot. So, so there you go.
Who knows? He may come in and be 6'4". Who knows what he is?
Yeah.
I mean, regardless, I think you can stick at corner. He looks like a guy who can play there. He may have some different upside at safety just because you see those man coverage skills. And if he actually is 6'1", he can cover some tight ends. If he's 5'11", you're going to stick him on the slot receiver. So there's some pieces with him that looks like he would be a very good player. And I really hope my gut's right and he is coming to Starkville.
Yeah, I mean, and that would be just massive in terms of, hey, real quick, he has it as he's 6'1". Now he might just be picking the top number, but he put it 6'1" on his bio.
I would say he's at least 6 feet tall.
Yeah, he's probably
that.
Yeah, whatever he is exactly, we're not sure. But no, I mean, I think this would be another big one when it comes to, a string of, this past string of commitments. It would be another really big one that you could go with. And, we're going to get into TJ White more tomorrow because he's committing later on in the day. That one is probably not going their way. It's probably going Tennessee's way. But still, I mean, that's why the Iverson McCoy commitment would be so big, because you're probably losing out on a big-time defensive player. And we talked just last week, they have to start landing some of these defensive guys.
Yes. Yeah, they do. They're so offensive heavy. You got to get a few more defensive guys in there that aren't safeties. So with like 4 safeties, I think, committed. So, yeah, they
got at least a hybrid. So.
Yeah, one's a hybrid, but still, we got to get some more positions in there.
Yeah.
And hopefully it starts very soon.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's talk about our top dog of the week. That's coming up next. All right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Landon, who is your top dog of the week?
Well, I'm going to kind of cheat here and go a little co-top dog. I'm going to go with Brian O'Connor and Justin Parker. I mean, they just keep bringing in more guys, more arms. And since it's all these pitchers, you can't just give it to Brian O'Connor. You can't because Justin Parker is obviously a huge part of getting these guys in here. If they didn't trust the pitching coach, they wouldn't be coming regardless of who the head coach was. And, same thing. They wouldn't be coming if Brian O'Connor wasn't here. So, I mean, we named them all. 9-Bar, Brendan Sweeney, Ben Davis are the latest ones, either coming or staying. So, hats off to the baseball coaching staff, just rolling.
Yeah, no, that's a really good one. I'm going to go with Jeff Lebby because obviously he had those string of commitments. A week before where they had 8 commitments.
They had 7 on Sunday.
Yeah. It was insane. They were just running off commitment after commitment. And then obviously this week is a massive week for them. And they are only in that position for this week. And again, they're not all going to go their way. There's a possibility none of them go their way. That's just how it is with recruiting. But to be in these battles says so much about Lebby as a coach, especially because to be in these battles and you haven't had success on the field yet, we talked about this. That means they are only able to recruit based off their vision. And that is hard to pitch sometimes, especially when you've had one season and it did not go well. So it's hard to pitch your vision, but yet they're still in these battles. And that says so much about the head coach and how much these players believe in him and the vision he is selling. Obviously, it has to do with the other coaches too, the position coaches, but they got that vision from Lebby and so on and so forth. So for him to have the success that he's having in the recruiting cycle this year after the poor season, and again, hopefully some of them go his way this week. I think some will. I think some of the bigger ones won't. Again, I mentioned TJ White last segment. He's a big-time 4-star linebacker. Probably not going to go their way. Probably going to go to Tennessee. But for you to be in a battle against a college football playoff team after you just went 2-10 is insane. And especially defensively, when they were one of the best defensive teams in the country and you were one of the worst.
Yeah, that's very true. And it also speaks to him being able to keep Lebby being able to keep everyone going in the same direction. All this coaching staff, all the recruiting staff, everyone moving in the same direction, still following that plan that he laid out. I mean, he had to know when he took this job, it was not going to be a quick fix. It was a 2 to 3 year time frame before they start to actually see the results. And despite how bad things went year one, coaching staff, recruiting staff, still all on the same page, and players are still believing, at least to an extent. Maybe not enough to sign their name on a paper they're faxing in, because we're still using fax machines for some reason in 2025. But hey, they're in the mix, and eventually a few more results on the field will lead to those guys coming here.
Yeah, with that being said, you have to have a successful season this year. And again, that could just be winning 4 games, but you have to show something. Otherwise, you won't be in these battles next year. So we'll see what ends up happening. Yeah, for sure. All right, well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen today. For your second listen, check out The Portal Show. Brian Smith has latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, I'm Jaron. That's check out my work over on Athlon Sports. That's Landon. We have several social media sites. We're on, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. We're going to be back to posting daily videos this week. Finally, not traveling. I'm a little under the weather, but I can at least get some things posted. So we'll have that up. We also post a question every time on our YouTube video. We love that interaction. We're going to be back to being able to really monitor that more this week now that I'm not traveling. And then we also post a poll, and we love your interaction on that. We got 50 votes on the last one. It is, what is your prediction for Mississippi State's football season win total? 60% said 4 wins. They'll improve, but still face challenges. 20% said 6 wins or more. This team will exceed expectations. And 14% said 5 wins. They have potential to surprise. Only 6% said 3 wins or fewer. The schedule is too tough. So a lot of optimism coming out of the offseason so far. So I think I sold them on my pitch last week.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. All right. Until next time, Hail State.
Hail State.